Welcome back to Light It Red, and I mean welcome back because it is the fall semester. This is day 2. I like to think of it as S-Doc. A lot of people say F-Doc, but the S-Doc is really like an F-Doc.
What are you talking about? What are you doing?
I'm just saying, like, day 2 of class is really like another first day of class because all the classes are still
the
new.
same. Yeah.
You got your Monday classes, then your Tuesday classes, and so forth.
Well, we got that, and then obviously I call it season 2. You call it season 3 because you did have 2 episodes before this, but I call it season 2 of Light It Red. We got renewed. Don't know how. We convinced some people, threatened some people, and hey, they were like, "Sure, we'll let you bozos back on again." So now you have to deal with us for a whole semester more.
Basically what happened was Stone was relentless about getting this podcast back. And so we are back for a full semester.
Yep.
Beyond that,
at least full semester, at least.
We're going to figure that out. So today we're really just going to talk about, I'm assuming what everyone is thinking is what's going on with our sports. We have new rosters, new schedules.
Because that's the whole point of the podcast.
Even some new coaches. New coach, I think. Just the one.
Yep.
But we want to go through that fall lineup with you guys before we start really analyzing anything super intensely. So that's our plan for today. And I know, Stone, you have a lot that you have prepared for football and volleyball. So if you want to just jump right into it and talk about, did you want to talk about men's soccer first?
Yeah, we can just go into that.
Okay.
This first episode, like you said, just going to be a quick rundown of kind of all the fall sports. Obviously, football will require a little more diving into just because of the, interests in that, but we're still going to touch on at least every single sport that's going on right now. First ones we're going to do are soccer. Men's soccer is the first one. That is going to be the only fall sport that does have the new coach, like Griffin just brought up. Mark Hubbard is replacing our former coach, George Kiefer. Is that how you say his name?
Shout out Mark.
I forget. Kiefer is replacing him.
Shout out Kiefer.
He's going to Grand Canyon. He got the job there. He was
demoted.
Sorry.
that was rude. I'm sorry.
Technically fired. He was a really nice guy, though. He was really cool. But he had a 48% win percentage. So, obviously.
Not good enough.
Yeah. It's a business.
It only gets better. Hey, let's talk about Mark Hubbard instead of George Kiefer.
Yeah, it's a business. Unfortunately, he's gone. But Mark was the coach for New Hampshire for 5 years, the 9 years, the past 9 years.
Yeah.
He won 5 conference titles with them, and he also made the tournament every single year with them since 2017. And he had 6 tournament wins during that time. So a lot of conference success, a lot of tournament success, which really makes me feel good because I feel like coaches who are in smaller schools, obviously, if they get a big job, you kind of hope they do good in conference, but them showing that they can win nationally as well, I think that's a giant positive for us.
Yeah. Hey, before you talk about anything else, the tournament, is that structured similarly to like all the other sports? Do we know?
I think relatively.
It's kind of like a pool of like 64 teams.
I don't know the exact number, but I do know it's not just New Hampshire going against crap as well all the time. They are lower schools that they go against, but I think, them at least showing that they can win, in big moments, win or go home, like against all the other best teams in the world. Because in basketball, it's kind of like, that's what you're thinking of, where you do have a coach, let's say, that wins their conference. Let's say like McNeese State. They made the tournament last year. They dominated their conference, and then they got blown out in the tournament game. And so, I think them winning the tournament, at least New Hampshire, let alone making it 7 years, I think that's pretty uplifting for us. But,
yeah. And then in those tournament runs, I'm pretty sure they were like mid-tier seeding too.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were like just scooting in.
Yeah.
So I agree. I have high hopes for him. I'm not sure how competitive Northeast football or soccer. I know in football it's not competitive. Football, I don't know. I don't know what conference is the University of New Hampshire in. I think it's.
I can look that up right now.
I'm not sure, but yeah. I mean, the tournament success kind of says it all. I don't really think you need much more information as far as like what his winning percentage is and what what they can achieve together. And I know while you're looking that up, we wanted to talk about some players that we had our eyes on.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
There's one that he is on the ACC preseason watch list.
Oh, is it so Karamoko?
Yes.
Dude, do you remember last year when we went to that game and he was just one of the most aggressive players out there.
You could watch, because we went to one soccer game, like you said, last year, and I feel like both of us, just like casually watching the game, you could kind of tell, like, okay, this guy is really good. Like, you could tell who the best players on the team were. And obviously, I forget his name, but our best player last year, who is a senior and now is gone, was there. I totally forgot his name. He was a really nice guy.
Luke Hilly?
There's Luke Hilly, but there's another one who he was a super senior. He's a senior, so I did
the guy you did a feature on.
Yeah, I did a feature on him.
You can't remember his name.
Super nice guy. Stop making me look terrible. All right, he was a super nice guy, but he was really good too. It was Hilly, him, and then
let's name drop him, right? You really don't remember his
clearly,
name?
if I knew his name, I would name drop him.
His name's Kendall Edwards.
Kendall, yes. Oh my gosh,
he was the captain.
I am bad with names. I'm so sorry. I'm terrible with names, anyways. I have to read off a script for names, anyways. But after those two, he was one guy that you're like, dang, like this guy looks crazy, and he was a freshman, I believe, last year.
He was a freshman. There were a couple of freshmen. I think there was one guy named Yuta Toya. Is he still on the team? Do we know?
I'm not 100% sure.
Go ahead and talk about Karamoko while I look at the men's soccer roster.
By the way, New Hampshire plays in the American East Conference, so that's the conference they play in. But we only have one player from the men's team that's listed in the watch list, but he is a forward for state, so he's very aggressive up, close near the goal. He's not really a defender. So I think most of our best players, at least the good ones, were slightly farther back, so like defenders and everything, but we didn't really have a ton of full attackers, and I think Hakeem can really help us out with that. Like I said, last year he was named to the All ACC freshman team, and after playing all 12 games last year, he really got the hang of things in the last 6. So the second half of the season, he scored 4 goals and had 1 assist. So actually really showed to kind of break out. But this upcoming season, it's definitely going to be, kind of a new era, rebuild-ish kind of thing. We are ranked 11th out of 15 schools for the ACC. And our first game is versus High Point on Thursday, the 22nd. So if you'd like to go ahead and see when men's soccer starts, it'll be this upcoming Thursday.
Yuta Toy is not on the team anymore, so forget that I name dropped him. But Irvin Cruz is on the team, and he's a sophomore, and he's pretty good too.
Yeah.
So I agree.
Young guys, both sophomores.
Yeah.
Young team, new era. So
I'm sure that coach will probably be relying on those guys a lot. But there are a couple of familiar names like Will Butte, Jarvis Cleel, Junior Nare, some of those older guys that should be leaders for the team in the kind of the transition. But from what I've heard, there has been pretty positive feedback about how Coach Mark Hubbard is managing the team.
Yeah, that's good. So, honestly, I'll be excited to, when we go to a game or two, kind of just get to know him and see him since he's the first new coach for the fall sports. So
I hope he has like an accent.
Just like when you talk, like something unique about him.
Like a New Hampshire accent.
Oh, if he was there for so long, you picked it up.
I don't know where he's from originally.
I don't either, but that'd be kind of funny.
Coach what's his face? Kiefer had a New York accent.
Yes.
We've got to keep it going.
He had a New York accent, but he was so funny. It was really, he was so nice. It was just really good. But now we can get to women's soccer. They've already started the year so far. They have a tie versus App State, and just recently they did lose at home to ECU, 1-0.
Not the Pirates.
No, the Pirates. So we are ranked 12th out of 17 teams in the ACC for women's. That's our projection.
You said 12th out of how many?
17.
That's worse than the men's.
Yeah, a little bit less, a little bit towards the bottom.
That was how it was last year too.
Tim Santoro, our coach, he returns. He's been there this is going to be his 12th year coaching women's soccer. But it looks like we're still in a reset, but we're hopefully in the second half of a reset. So feels like it started maybe a year or two ago. Hopefully we kind of get out of that soon, but I think we're probably still going to look to be in that reset lower tier this year. But even if maybe we improve, maybe we get much better, we would be trying to make the tournament for the first time since, I believe, 2 years ago, because we had 6 consecutive NCAA tournament appearances, which that streak ended after the 2022 season. So Tim has been here for 12 years because he obviously had sustained success before. So I don't really have too many issues with him as a coach personally. I just know sometimes if you don't win enough for long enough, doesn't matter what you did beforehand, sometimes they'll get rid of you. But I feel like he should be pretty good now because we're, like I said, hopefully entering just this back half of a slight rebuild.
I'll tell you what's wrong with the women's soccer team.
Oh, what?
They aren't scoring goals. I mean,
wow, really?
That might be a hot take, but that was a problem last year. And you know what's even worse about that is there were 2 leading goal scorers last year, Jamise Joseph and her name's slipping my mind right now.
Oh, you can't remember names now. Interesting. Okay.
She was actually the leading goal scorer. Jamise was like second or tied. Yeah. Anyways, I'll remember it later and I'll feel stupid, but they are both gone. So I'm interested to see who is going to step up. It looks like there are a few fresh faces on the roster this year. Quite a few sophomores. So
that's the thing, because last year, when I mean second half, I mean last year we got a ton of freshmen that played a lot, and so now this year is going to be a lot of sophomores that play a lot. So hopefully next year, once they have 2 years of experience, these juniors can, kind of turn these kind of 1-0, 2-0 L's into like 3-2 W's, because like you said, we are not really scoring a lot, and that was definitely an issue last year for sure.
It was Alexis Strickland. Alexis, if you're listening, I'm sorry. We had a sit down interview.
Wow.
Something. No, I shouldn't have ragged on you earlier. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man. No, interesting. Names are hard,
well,
especially when you do all this.
Yeah. That's okay.
That's soccer. Do you have anything else to add for
soccer?
Soccer or anything?
No, I mean, the more games we go to, hopefully the more we'll have to report back to our audience.
Yeah.
And kind of, get more in touch with the sport. But yeah, right now it's kind of hard to tell like who is really going to emerge as the best players or the leaders, or what the roles are going to be, or how the coaches are going to function. So we're just kind of spitballing right now.
Women's soccer seems more of like a committee, just see who's going to step up at this point.
I agree.
But like you said, we'll get more to you when the games kind of play out. And then we got volleyball. Volleyball I think in terms of the fall sports, obviously football gets the most attention for everything, but I think volleyball was definitely solidified as second after they had some pretty impressive wins. I believe Louisville was the win that we had where they actually did light it red, and that was really cool.
And what was the significance of that win?
Well, obviously it was Louisville was, I forget what they were ranked,
number
3 in the country.
Yeah,
and it was like the highest we've ever beat, or it was the highest ranked team I think we had ever beat.
Yeah, it was unofficially the program's biggest win ever.
In terms of like actual recent rankings and stuff like that. Last year, volleyball was 5th in the ACC, the Wolfpack volleyball were, and they were 7th in points in terms of what they finished last year. This year, the current projections have them at number 8 in the ACC, but they're very close to 6 and 7, so I'd say they're at least in the 6 to 8 range. But I kind of feel like that's a little low because we are basically getting all of our best players and starters returning. Ava Brazard, Amanda Rice, Jada Allen, Madison Williams, like all of those people are returning, which all of them were top 4 in points, and they were all leaders in other separate categories. The only one that is gone was our leader in assist, Kristen McDaniel, who I believe she was a senior last year and she's gone, or she transferred. I can't remember.
She, I believe, was a 5th year. She had like a really big send off.
Yeah, so she is no longer here, but Naomi Cabello was second behind her, so she will kind of step into that role and be the primary assist for the Wolfpack volleyball team. But in terms of what we could maybe expect, I mean, teams like Stanford, Pitt, and Louisville are kind of all in this tier 1. They're kind of clearly looked at as the best in the ACC. Voice crack.
This is the first time you also mentioned Stanford, too.
Yes.
That's like a big deal that we haven't really talked about.
What?
Well, Stanford's in the ACC now.
Oh, yeah. That is right. I totally forgot. Stanford, Cal, SMU, some of the dumbest crap, I think.
Whoa.
I hate it, dude. Yeah, I'm pissed. I hate it.
I don't feel the same way.
I don't like it. Well, I think it's cool if you change the name.
Oh, you don't want it to be the Atlantic Coast?
I'm going to California for the Atlantic Coast Conference matchup. It is stupid. Just change the name, which part of me is like, I like the old school stuff where we actually had East Coast teams playing each other for the ACC or whatever, and now the Pac-12 is gone, and it's really unfortunate. It was just people up top really not doing a good job with a lot of stuff, and it affected everything else, but I think it is cool in terms of we get more matchups. So from that perspective, it's good.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, as a fan of the ACC, I saw it as like a move to keep up with the SEC. And
which we need to, because we have rumors of Florida State, Clemson, Carolina, like maybe looking to leave and go to the SEC, which would be insane.
So it was almost like do or die.
Yeah. So we just had to pick up whoever. But I think each of them in respective sports will be huge. And obviously in this one, Stanford is the team there. But in terms of where we are, I think with natural improvement, we can reach like the top of tier 2, which would be like the 4th or 5th best team in the ACC, which is around where we were last year. So if we can get to 4, that would be improvement. But I think the biggest improvement would just be, potentially getting some kind of big wins when it comes to the tournament or when it comes to the ACC tournament or national tournament or something like that. But do you want to go into our coach? I think you have some notes on him as well.
Coach Luka?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we were talking about earlier how he coached the Olympics in the 2020 Olympics, but I don't think he coached in the 2024 one.
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
I didn't find anything about that.
Okay.
But he has a gold medal.
Yeah.
We were just thinking about Olympics because it was Olympic season not that long ago. But yeah, I don't think he participated this year. So.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
But last year, though, for him personally, he had his first 20-win season as head coach of State. It was the first for NC State in general since 2017. Overall, he's got a 62-42 record overall, 39-31 in ACC play. In our first game, that's not an exhibition. We have an exhibition game against Davidson, I believe, on this Saturday as we're recording this. But Creighton is going to be our first game, which is on the 30th. So we've still got about 10 days until volleyball starts. So soccer will start up first, and then we got volleyball.
Yeah.
Football will start before volleyball as well, because obviously football is on the 29th.
The volleyball schedule every year, just as a sport, there are a lot of games on the schedule, and I don't think conference play even starts. It doesn't start until like October.
Yeah.
So we've got a ways to go with that, but it's Virginia Tech on September 27th.
Okay.
So.
Well, we'll go and see those games. But volleyball, a lot of people are returning. I think they'll improve, so might actually have some optimism for volleyball this year as well.
Did you mention Sky Stokes? No. I think she'll be good too. I don't.
Oh, I totally forgot about her. Yeah, no,
year,
she was like rotating in a good amount, and she's back as well. I totally forgot.
She's a starter, and she's I think a graduate student this year, and she's a libero.
Yeah,
libero. That's a really important position. So I think having someone with the experience there is gonna. Like you said, they're really running it back with the roster.
Yeah.
So they're not gonna beat Nebraska, but maybe they can beat Louisville and Stanford.
Who knows? We did it last year. We beat Louisville. So I think obviously we have
and
really
Pitt,
high. We freaking
Pitt.
Yeah, Pitt was bad. We went to that game. That was bad. But we obviously from last year we had really high highs and really low lows. And I think the older you get, the more consistent you get. So hopefully we can get consistently good. And that's kind of the hopes.
And
for
the
volleyball.
coaching has to be there, right?
Yeah, which I personally think it is. I feel like he has done a pretty good job. So.
No, I agree.
So that's volleyball. And then cross country we can quickly get into. Obviously, they've won 3 NCAA championships in the last 4 years, just casually throwing that out there. Pretty crazy. But a lot of the best runners, which obviously the best one was Caitlin Toohey, is no longer with us at NC State. So we are going to have to see pretty much a rise from a lot of the other people that were on the team. The 2 ones that I'm mainly looking at are Grace Hartman, who's a junior, and then Leah Stevens, who's a sophomore. Both were the next highest runners who are actually they were the next highest runners last year, who are actually the only people that are returning, that were in the top, 5 for our cross country team. But they're still very much in contention for winning it all. They're just not really in the favored spot anymore. But, I don't doubt that the coach is probably going to obviously help them improve, and maybe we have a chance to potentially go ahead and win it all again, which would be crazy.
Yeah. I was actually, I mean, this is kind of related, but have you ever heard of the cup, the award that you get? Each school is like weighted across all the sports that they have, and then like as you excel in multiple sports, it ups your ranking.
Yes, I think I have heard of that.
So I looked at that, and cross country didn't count for anything, but freaking like lacrosse. So there are a lot of sports that we don't have at this school.
Hockey.
That
aren't we getting a hockey team now, I believe?
No, so the hockey team isn't becoming Division 1. If that's what you were asking.
Oh, I thought they were.
No. The club is getting a promotion.
Oh, okay.
Which is cool, and we'll talk about that at some point. But no. What were you saying before hockey? Oh, we were talking about I don't even know what the name of the cup is.
The cup.
What the award is. I just looked at it, like the stats very briefly, and it just was unfortunate because we were like ranked 21st in the country after everything that
we got so much. Yeah, we
did last year.
Last year was insane.
So that was annoying.
Well, maybe they'll add it, or maybe we'll just keep improving with all the other sports we have, hopefully. But that's the other sports that we have, and then we can quickly, or not fully quickly, but this second half of the episode we can spend on football, because obviously that is, one of the biggest sports, the biggest sport for college in general. But definitely, I would say for us, obviously basketball was probably the biggest last year for NC State nationally, which was insane. Which, I always think back, I don't know why, but it's always funny. I always think back to that sick moment when Dave Dorn was like talking to Steve Smith, and he was like, "This ain't a basketball school. You can kiss my ass," or whatever.
I was trying to remember the presser he did after that game. Did he like doubled down on it?
Yeah, he did.
What did he say?
Well, I don't remember exactly what he said, but I know Steve Smith like picked against them on game day because we were playing. I forget what team we were playing, but he was like, "They're waiting for basketball seasons to start. They're a basketball school," and then we won, and he said that.
He said Steve Smith can kiss my ass.
Yeah.
And then
this ain't a basketball school, or
he
whatever.
said something like that was bullshit.
Yeah, I can't remember, but
it was funny.
It was totally correct and funny and awesome. And then I just thought it was kind of funny how then that year we literally did something we haven't done in forever and went to the Final Four and achieved an insane amount. But I would say on a consistency basis, football is where it's at for sure.
We're in everything school.
Yeah, we're in everything school. And
Steve,
I think
Short King Steve,
Short King Steve, Panthers legend.
Boo.
So where do you say boo?
Boo
hey,
in the sense
don't disrespect my Panthers.
Boo
man.
in the sense that they're bad.
Yeah, we're bad. I know they're terrible.
Not that I root
but they'll
against
get better.
them, but they're bad.
I promise they'll get better. But that's football.
Well, at least they have DJ Moore and
they don't.
Chuba Hubbard and
what? They don't even have DJ anymore.
Oh, they traded him?
Yes. Well, man, would you like me to
at least
relive the trade? Yes,
Cam
of course.
Kuechly
and McCaffrey.
McCaffrey.
Pretty horrendous.
And they have Brian Burns still.
Yep, Brian Burns still.
I
hate you.
All right. They don't have Brian Burns.
I know. I thought you were being facetious.
I actually don't. He's was on the team last year.
He's a Giant. He got traded to the Giants.
Okay, yeah. So they have no talent.
All right, well.
And their quarterback looked like he was going back to school for like 5th grade.
Wow.
You didn't see that?
All right, that's enough
his
Panthers
backpack
disrespect.
came down to like his calves.
I know. That's enough Panthers disrespect. I understand. Not that it's wrong, but
I wonder where he gets his back to school supplies.
Back to NC State football. I think, funny enough, when we were talking about the Dave Dorn thing, I do think this could be the year where they kind of also hit the mark that all the other sports did. Because last year it wasn't a bad year, but if you really watched all the games, you almost got a headache all the time because it was so crazy up and down. Like
last year, the record was fine, but I'm telling
That's
you,
only the surface. Diving it. No, I know.
it
That's what I'm
sucked.
just saying.
It was so bad.
It was so crazy. I don't know how we won, honestly, some of those games.
No,
A lot of credit to the coaching staff, but this year I feel so much better about the roster.
and we said that last year.
I mean,
I'm just being devil's advocate right now. I'm not a pessimist. I'm just saying we're all like, oh, Brennan Armstrong.
well, I'm talking about offensively specifically because defensively, like, they were amazing.
Yeah, I'm about Casey Concepcion podcast favorite.
Yes, Casey Concepcion. And now the football team, I think, could just follow along and hit these, all-time highs for the team that we have been trying to kind of hoping for, which I think that's the goal, is the illustrious 10 wins. It's the illustrious double-digit win season, and it's if we can get that, because we have not had a bowl game win since 2017. We have had no 10-win season under Dave Doran. Lots of 9, lots of 8, lots of 9-win 8 seasons under Dave, but no 10. And I would say the majority of the time the roster was not really fit for 10 wins, so I'm not necessarily diminishing him or anything. But I do think things are changing, for sure. They're going to be way more fun to watch. Like, we will have such a better time, a way more comfortable time watching them, like, for sure. Not even a question.
I think that the playoff expansion has made it like, I mean, when you watch professional sports, it's like, take the NBA for example. You get to watch your team, and like you can always kind of hold out hope that they'll make the playoffs.
Yeah,
and have something to play for. But with college football, it's like, if you're not in a certain conference or your schedule's not a certain way, there is no chance you're making it into the play. You had nothing to play for but a bowl game.
Yeah. For example, like, hypothetically, if the Florida team that let's say Florida right now had the team they had back when they won the national title, we don't know if they would have even done that if they had today's schedule, because their schedule right now is insane. They play like 7 teams that are in the top 20 right now, and it would almost be like your team is good enough to win it all, but you just can't because your record is so hard. That's why I don't really like a lot of this SEC and Big Ten stuff, because I feel it just it's going to make teams appear worse than they actually are. But I do think the product will be better because they're playing more good teams more often. But we're going to have, I think, a lot of conversations of a lot of people being like, well, this team has a better record and they look blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, it's going to be really weird to rank them because this team might have 3 losses, but they have 3 losses in the SEC, where this team has 1 loss, but it's 1 loss or 2 losses in the ACC or the Big 12. And so it's going to make it a lot weird. But luckily for us, the ACC I still think is kind of your normal like conference in terms of like you don't have an insane amount of really good teams all the time, but it's not dog crap or gone like the Pac-12. And so, I think we're the kind of the perfect middle there. But, I mean, just for, the team itself, obviously we took a gigantic offensive leap through the transfer portal. That was the biggest thing we did, and they did an amazing job. They had the 18th overall in terms of transfer class ranking. We'll obviously get into a lot of the transfer players and stuff because that was the biggest deal. But our offensive and defensive coordinator returned, Robert and I, and Tony Gibson. Tony, I think, was a huge return for the team. I know he got some buzz as head coaching stuff or DCs even in the NFL a little bit, I heard, or at giant programs like Georgia or Texas or something like that. But he is returning, so that's big for us because I think he's very good and a great pairing with Dave. And then Robert, I know, got a lot of hate, but I think he did a good job adjusting down the stretch of the season to where he just had to deal with what he was dealt and was like, hey, this is Armstrong, this is MJ, like this is what we need to do. But I think he did a good job really hammering get Casey the ball, because we had an episode.
Say the same thing.
We had an episode where Casey had like his first really good game. And we're like, okay, hey, I don't really care if you have a history of, hey, I stick with my plan, I do this. Robert, you need to get this dude the ball all the time, and he did that. He totally did, and I think it's part of the reason why we won some games, even if it looked ugly. So I think that's
try to limit the weaknesses. Yeah, embrace the strengths.
That was so props to him. So yeah. I feel like this year it'll be better because he'll at least have a little bit less insane planning to do because he's got more talent around him.
And more time to adjust.
Yes, for sure. And that starts with the quarterback. Grayson McCall is going to be our new starting quarterback another year where we do have a transfer quarterback. I know last year I was relatively excited for Brennan Armstrong,
Me too.
for sure. And he did disappoint for sure. I don't think he was
Dang.
horrendous, but he did. It's realistic.
You were
know,
a Brennan Armstrong stan all year.
I liked him. No, I'm saying I was a Brennan Armstrong stan compared to MJ Morris people.
Okay.
And I was totally right.
No, I'm just giving you.
But
I understand.
in
what you're
general, if you look at it, you were like, this is not what we hoped we got from, a transfer at Virginia who, when he came in, he obviously had a bad year, but going back 3 years prior, 3 years in a row prior to that, he was very good. And I don't want people to be scared because Grayson's very similar. He's a transfer from Coastal Carolina. 3 seasons prior to the very last year that he played, 2023, he was statistically one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. Not
How
even a
many
question.
years ago was this?
So prior to the 2023 season, so if you take out last year, 3 years in a row, so 2022, 2021, and 2020, he played, he basically started when he was a freshman, and he was statistically one of the best QBs in the nation.
And what happened
every single year?
Last year?
Well, I'll get to that, but
okay.
through those amazing, just to hype up the amazing seasons, 2 of those were 11-win years. He also set the NCAA single season mark for passing efficiency rating at 207.6, and he did that in 2021. So his highs are insanely high. Last year was the first year with a new coach. He had a new coach in Jamie Chadwell, or his former coach, Jamie Chadwell, went to Liberty. And when he went to Liberty, they went 13-1 last year. So clearly the coach was a pretty big deal. But Coastal Carolina lost a lot of guys. A lot of people followed the coach, but Grayson did not. He stayed. And so a lot of talent was lost. And he played in 7 games before he was knocked out unconscious and suffered from a concussion. And then didn't play the rest of the year.
Got it.
So that's how he went down. And even before then, he wasn't bad. It was just he wasn't playing up to the strengths that he had. But he had a brand new offensive coordinator, brand new offense, brand new weapons, brand new everything. So I don't take an insane amount away from that. But comparing it to Brennan Armstrong, yes, Brennan Armstrong had great stuff. And then the year prior to coming to NC State, he was bad. But the year prior to coming to NC State, with him being bad, he had a different injury that was lingering. And it wasn't just like some concussion that he had that he ended up, like Grayson, concussion, didn't play the rest of the year, and now has 10 months of recovery for it. Like Brennan kept playing through it. And so that's kind of why I feel at least a little bit he suffered.
What was Brennan's injury?
I forget if it was something with his ankle or leg. I can't remember, but I know.
He did get injured.
He got injured, but even at Virginia, they also were terrible. They had a lot of bad stuff going on, and that was the year I think those players passed away, I believe. So it was just bad everything, if you remember that, for Virginia University. That was very sad. But now we have Grayson, and I think I'm definitely very optimistic for his season, especially I just prefer the way he plays, for sure. I think you should expect a top 3 quarterback in the ACC and probably around a top 15 quarterback in the nation. That's what I think you should expect. But there's going to be an adjustment. There's going to for sure be an adjustment. Prior to 2023, there was a very little fall off in any sort of efficiency, whether he was blitzed, whether he was, pocket was kept clean or under pressure. But the ACC is very different from the Sun Belt. So there's going to be a lot of adjustments there with how fast the edge rushers are and how fast the corners are, how fast the linebackers move. It's going to be an adjustment. But he's a capable runner, but he's a pocket passer for sure. That's his bread and butter. But I think you should expect ideal general quarterback play. That's kind of what it'll be. In 2021, he graded as the best deep ball thrower in all of college football. That was the season I was talking about where he broke the efficiency record. And he was second in 2022 behind Drake May, who just got drafted, obviously top 3 in the NFL. So I think you should, for him at least, I think the biggest thing is going to be keeping him under, pocket kept clean at least a majority of the time and keeping him upright as long as possible. But if they do that, at least for the majority, it's going to look really good. But he obviously needs help. And obviously the biggest guy is our amazing receiver that we have, KC. You're supposed to say it.
Oh, Conception.
That's not how you say it.
Concepcion.
Yes.
Sion.
You were supposed to say funny way, but whatever.
Podcast favorite.
Yes. That's who. He's insane. He's a stud. But we don't need to go in depth, to be honest. This is more for people that don't know. Like,
yeah, just listen to him do an interview and then watch him play.
He's amazing. He's insane. I think he is in contention for being a top 5 wide receiver in the nation. And I'm not being a biased fan. I'm serious.
Yeah. I just hope that he's not taking hits like he was at the end of last year.
That's the only thing that could derail him. Because we've had receivers just in college history that have had amazing first year or first and second year, and then boom, they get injured and they fall off and they're a 7th round pick or something like that.
His speed is everything.
But if he can stay healthy, him now being a sophomore, he's on track to be a guaranteed 1st round pick in 2026 or 2027, whenever he declares. But he's here now, and he's an amazing. He's not a traditional wide receiver. He's a slot. Give him jet sweeps. He ran the ball a ton last year. Quick screens, and he can also go deep if you need that. That's kind of what he is. Kind of like a Tank Dell, if you needed to think of someone in the NFL. But the guys that we could get into, one that I'm very excited for, and I loved it when we saw it, was Noah Rogers. Noah Rogers is a redshirt freshman. He's a former 4-star that committed to Ohio State. He's from North Carolina. Just what do you know about Ohio State in general? If you just to think, hey, I'm an NFL fan, what do I know about Ohio State?
Ohio State?
They know a wide receiver when they see one.
Oh, you're going to say wide receiver. I thought you were going to say like Dwayne Haskins.
No, not their quarterbacks that does play into it. Why do you think they have so many quarterbacks that don't work out in the NFL? Because the stuff around them is amazing when they're in college. And that's because their wide receivers are so good. I don't even need to tell you how many are in the NFL right now that are amazing.
Name 3.
Just look it up. I mean, JSN was amazing when he came out, and I think he's going to get better. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, there are so many
and
good
then
receivers.
Think Marvin
that they've
Harrison
had.
Jr. is going to be the best.
Marvin Harrison Jr., he's going to be insane. I mean, they have so many. They have a ton. But yeah, I don't even need to explain to you why Ohio State wide receivers are good. But he was number 2 in the nation in terms of a recruit from North Carolina last year, which was top 40 overall. But he's 6'2", 200 pounds. He's like a real all-around outside X wide receiver or Z, either one. But I'm really optimistic for him. It'll be his first time getting real playing time because he didn't really play at all. Because obviously it was stacked last year with he's not playing over Marvin Harrison Jr. But he doesn't really seem to have any major weaknesses, at least in high school. But I think if he does, we'll at least see what it is in college because we just don't have a lot of film, if any, on him, or particularly, a lot of the stats that they bring out, they don't really show advanced stats and everything like that for high school football.
Right.
So we'll kind of see exactly what he is, but based on a lot of stuff I read, it seems like he's just a really well-rounded guy.
And we talked about him on our episode about, did we do a transfer episode?
I believe so, yeah.
And he was one of the receivers we talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Ohio State.
Big deal.
Sophomore?
He's a redshirt freshman.
Redshirt. Okay, so he has not played at all.
Barely. You can play 4 games or something and then be redshirted. So I don't know if he played at all or maybe he did, but basically nothing to go off of. But he was a very highly recruited player, and Ohio State got him. So clearly, if they wanted him, he's a big deal.
You think he's day 1 starter?
Oh, yeah. The other guys I'm going to bring up, though, are getting a lot of buzz at a camp that I think could play alongside, but KC is going to be in the slot. So we're looking at 2 outside receivers. So Noah Rogers is guaranteed to be at least one of the outside receivers, meaning I think he's going to play literally every single passing down, unless he's injured or they swap out guys. But Wesley Grimes is a junior transfer from Wake Forest, and then Keenan Jackson is a current freshman, brand new from Matthews, North Carolina, which is outside of Charlotte. Both of these guys are getting very positive talks in camp that are probably going to fight for the other outside role across from Noah Rogers. Across from Noah Rogers. Grimes, the transfer from Wake Forest, is probably going to start the year, but I think Jackson could gradually get more rotational snaps, but he's probably not going to start because he's a freshman, obviously. But I think both of those guys look really interesting, and that gives me a lot of optimism because last year it was basically KC, and that's it. We didn't have a ton of great receivers out there. Dakari Collins was the only one that wasn't bad, and he gives us good size. He's 6'5". He's a good weapon.
I was gonna say, you don't think he's gonna be out there?
He
week
will.
one?
He will, but he is not listed as the starter right now. Grimes is listed as the second outside starting wide receiver, and Collins is right behind him. So he will be able to get some time, especially because he's big. So he'll probably go out there on deep routes and stuff like that if it's a clear like 3rd and long or something. He could play the fourth receiver since he's 6'5". But they could also just run 2 tight ends because there's 2 tight ends that we have now that actually look viable. Juice Farine is currently the backup. You have a class with him apparently, so that's cool.
You can't say that on the podcast.
I can't?
No, you can. I feel like if he drops the class, then he would.
He would just. Well, he's in.
Don't jump the gun.
He's
here.
in Griffin's class, at least right now. But he's for sure going to get more snaps in 2 tight end sets or even as a slot because KC can move around. KC can be outside. So let's say KC is outside across from Noah. You could have Juice in the slot if you'd like, if they have some kind of play for that. But his hands reportedly have gotten better, but I still need to see in-game stuff because obviously in-game you need to show that your hands have improved because that was kind of an issue last year.
With Juice?
Yeah, a little bit.
Were you around when I think it was the Notre Dame game, he had kind of a mini breakout. Like he was the only source of offense.
Yeah.
And that was the game that like that tropical storm came through and delayed.
Yes,
and the
I remember
scoreboard
that.
went out. And I wanted to name the Agromech story. It was our first home football game we covered every year. And I wanted to call it Wet and Juicy.
What? Dude, that's an amazing name.
Wet and
Juicy. Gosh.
Because, it was wet.
That's insane.
Juicy, but
they wouldn't let you do that.
Nope.
Dang.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine why. That sucks.
Yeah, I don't know why.
That's such a good name.
No.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
But he's one of the tight ends, Juice Farine. And then Justin Jolly is the other one that's another transfer. He's from UConn. And I don't have a ton of like crazy stuff to say. He's just a really solid receiving tight end. Not elite or anything, but he will be.
Did you say elite or elite?
Not elite or anything.
Okay.
But he's a upgrade over what we have. So all around is just upgrades receiving. And then running back is also an upgrade. Jordan Waters. He is a transfer. He played 4 years at Duke, and he's just a really consistent, good halfback. Takes command. I think he'll be like the full committee, or he'll take command, and we'll kind of shy away from the just literal committee we had last year. We just had like 3 different guys. It was whoever's hot got run. Mm-hmm. Now it's kind of Jordan Waters, and then I think Kendrick Raphael is going to be the good backup that we have. So
wasn't there another back?
There was another one I believe they transferred, but Raphael was kind of listed far and away as the RB2, but there are some new like freshman backs that we have, like Hollywood Smothers is there. I believe he was a transfer.
That's who we talked about.
Yeah, Hollywood Smothers.
Yeah.
Duke Scott has gotten some good run, but he's a brand new freshman. He's gotten some talk in camp. So Hollywood or Duke might get some time.
Hollywood Smothers is kind of a receiving back?
A little bit, yeah. That's kind of the more so the role. So he could get time because...
I hope he does.
Because Waters isn't really, and Raphael is elusive, but he's not a pure receiving back. So
Dude,
Smothers could get some time.
Sorry, not to interrupt you, but do you remember towards the end of the season, like Raphael was just like lightning in a bottle.
He was looking really good. He had, can't remember, but it was one game where he caught this one pass and just juked a guy, spinned off another one, and ran it in for a touch. It was like I think he did a Texas route. He like did a slant or something on the inside, and he scored. And I was like, dang, that was a great play. So he was someone we always looked at as like, hey, this guy's actually pretty.
He's a playmaker,
and he didn't get. I feel like he didn't get the ball a ton because a lot of times we just didn't run it a lot.
He was doing like. He was averaging over 10 yards a carry because he was getting 10 carries a game.
Yeah.
And his
not
yardage
even,
was
barely.
Just, like, I know. And he was just like, every time he touched the ball, it was like house call.
Yeah. I think he finished with over 5 yards per carry in total, which is very good. But that's around close to what Waters had last year. So I think Waters will for sure be the RB1, but Raphael will get some time for sure. And then we'll have some other guys in there. But weapons are just all so much improved. The only thing is I think the O-line is definitely the worst part, but it is all the same except the center. Our tackles I have a little more hope for, Jacarius Peak and then Anthony Belton. Both were not bad, but not great last year. I know we had a lot of issues with protection, but Armstrong I think created a little bit of those himself. by kind of running first. But Jacarius Peak, I expect more improvement from because it was his first year starting last year. So I think he could be a pretty big X factor if we want to see some improvement from this offensive line, since he's going to be a sophomore. And then the guards are the same: Timothy McKay, Anthony Carter. Neither of them were amazing last year, so you just got to hope for at least a little bit of improvement. The only thing is we lost the center, Dylan McMahon, to the Eagles. They drafted him. And we did, however, get a grad transfer from Notre Dame and Zeke Correll. And he's about similar in skill level, so you won't see a ton of fall off there. You're obviously just going to have to get some rapport with his quarterback. So the O-line, I mean, you could say it's the worst part, but it can't really get much worse since everyone is returned.
Right. I agree with what you were saying, though, about I know that Armstrong got sacked a lot, but yeah, he did wait too long to get the ball out.
Or just look at one, just go. Like sometimes he wouldn't even really, and sometimes he would run into a defender when
he would run into his own line.
Yeah, sometimes he would.
But then he would have the line.
He would have the play where he like jukes a guy and gets a first down and is like dives for it. And you're like, oh, dude, this is crazy. And then another one where he's like throwing off his back foot, doing this.
It was too frequent.
Chaotic. Yeah. Too many times doing that.
So I don't think the O-line, I mean, they were,
but it wasn't. O-line was not.
They weren't great.
Ideal. No,
they were bad.
But like I'm saying, like it can't get much worse than last year. I feel like it can only improve because all the guys are together now. It's just the leader is different at center. But a lot of times in college, I think there's less responsibility on the center in college because they are college guys, you know. Whereas in the NFL, the center is the leader of the O-line. Like he calls everything and everything like that. Where in college, I feel like it's more the O-line coaches and stuff. So it's not as big of a deal. But I think Jacarius Peak, if you want to know anyone, is the X factor here because if he can improve, that would make this offense very elite. Because that's the only thing holding the back is like the O-line isn't elite or like near at least above average. We're kind of average for the ACC. I'd say we're probably around mid for our O-line. But offense, for sure, step up. Defense is where we did take a step back, and that's obviously just because we lost the best defensive player in the country, and that's not hyperbole, in Peyton Wilson, who is now a Pittsburgh Steeler. Obviously fell in the draft because of injury concerns, but I think even if he does get injured earlier in his career, still going to be a great pick if you get his kind of production, like at least for 5 years, 6 years, like doesn't matter.
I've heard good things so far.
Oh yeah, he's going to be a stud for sure. Which that linebacker group is a little crowded, but if he's good, he's going to get on the field. So rooting for him. But we kind of have more of a committee at least now, especially in the linebacking area. Devin Van and Aiden White lead kind of respectively the D-line and the secondary. They're both looking to increase because they're projected now as like day 3 prospects in the NFL. So both of them as the leaders of their groups are going to try and improve that. Devin Van, I think, is going to be the biggest deal for me on this team. He had 32 pressures and 8 sacks last year, which is good. But I think now he's going to have to improve from that because Wilson's not here giving pressure up the middle and everything, and at least covering for, broken tackles by running backs and stuff like that. But he's basically got all his eyes set on him as the leader in terms of pass rushing and run defending and all that, which he's definitely more of a pass rusher. But I think if he can just get to double-digit sacks or so, maybe have some kind of turnover upside because didn't have, I think, a single forced fumble last year, which he is already in the leadership role, but I think he can prove why he's the leader by increasing his play and ideally, obviously, increasing his draft stock. But this will be his last year here, so that's definitely our best defensive lineman. Brandon Cleveland he returns as a solid nose tackle. I believe we run like a 3-4, so he's kind of in the middle defending the run, and he's good. But other than that, there's not much upside or previous good production out of that. So I don't want to like dive into some random, freshman that I think is going to do really good. And there's a lot of them. So it's kind of just, hey, who's going to step up? Because the starters we had last year, I believe it was Price was his last name. He wasn't amazing. But they have a lot of other guys, Noah Potter, Red Hibbler, like
both of those guys, I'm pretty sure were transfers last year. So it'll be good that they got another year in the program.
But we have like 4 freshmen that are coming in. So hopefully at least someone there commands, a starting spot out on the other side of Van. And then the linebackers is, like I said, more of a committee. Caden Fordham, who's number 10, is going to take over Peyton Wilson's spot. And I actually do like him to improve. He's in year...
like him?
I like him. I don't like him, but I like him to improve in year 4. But he's not Wilson. So, it's I'm not going to be insane and say he's going to be close to that. But I think in the last game I saw him, he was actually pretty good. And it was the bowl game where Peyton Wilson was gone. I'm like, this number 10 guy is actually kind of stepping up. So we'll see what he does with a full year. And then the only other notable linebacker that I want to point out is Sean Brown. He was a safety last year, and he sucked in coverage, was very bad, but he was very good tackling and run blocking and pass rushing, and now he's a linebacker. So I think he gained a little bit of weight, so that's good. So I think he might actually be in the right spot. And then Aiden White, like I said, leads the secondary. He's our cornerback 1. He was good last year, but I don't know if you remember, in terms of this year, he was a bit disappointing because he did take a step back, because last year we were like looking at the secondary as, this is an elite group and everything. But Aiden White, like all statistical metrics, and even if you watched, he was not as good as he was in 2022 last year. So he's still a CB1 and is still good. But I think for him, he, specifically definitely wants to improve his stock, because I think he's actually projected as like a round 4 player. And as a guy who, I think the secondary did lose a little bit, he's going to have more eyes on him. And I think he has the potential, because he literally was amazing or very good in 2022. So I'm not sure what happened last year. Maybe it was a little bit of injuries, because he'd had an injury in the beginning of the year. But hopefully he can do, have some improvement. But he's solidified there. And then Brandon Sis is getting a lot of buzz in camp. He's the only other guy that I saw. He was a safety last year. He played safety. And he's listed as cornerback 2 right now. He seems to have taken that job. So we'll see him in a new position as well. So 2 safeties getting moved to different areas at least makes me think a little better, because maybe they finally found the right spot for him, and they just weren't in the right spot last year. So maybe that helps elevate at least the floor of this defense, because guys are now in the correct spot. And then, other guys, Devon Boykin, he's going to be our safety. He's still solid. We did lose Robert Kennedy, which sucked because he was very good last year. But we got a transfer from Notre Dame, DK Kaufman, to replace him. He's not the same caliber as
what's his name?
Kaufman, Kaufman.
Okay.
But he's not the same caliber as Robert was, but he's kind of similar to Boykin. So we'll have 2 fine guys back there. And then Bishop Fitzgerald is still there, and he's good depth, and he'll rotate in. So 3 safeties that are all solid that'll kind of go in and rotate out from that back area there. But aside from linebacker, I think the 2 other groups, obviously secondary and D-line, have a lot of returning guys who have shown the ability to, I think at least for NC State, some guys are moving to new positions, and other guys are saying, hey, I've proven to do this last year. It gives us at least a lot of depth that we know, especially in the secondary. Like, we have seen a lot of these guys, so it's not kind of a mystery of who's going to do what, because they are now in positions that make them succeed. So that kind of makes me feel a little bit better about the defense. But to be honest, with Dave and Tony still here, Dave Doran, head coach, obviously, Tony at DC, I'm not really too worried about the defense. And the offense is only going to make it easier for the defense. So I think you don't have to worry too much about there. But overall, this is an upgrade. This is an upgrade for sure. Massive leaps we're taking offensively, even if we did lose a little bit of pieces on defense. But if we could just quickly get into the schedule for the end of this episode, as we're approaching an hour. Sorry, it's a long episode, but it's the beginning, so we gotta get all this stuff to you. If we assume that we win versus teams that we should beat, which obviously football is a game of matchups. There might be some games that are closer than others, and if it's a close game, anything can happen. But let's just say we win against teams we should. The 3 big games are Tennessee, which is played in Charlotte, at Clemson, and at UNC.
I disagree.
What?
You keep saying that this UNC game is a big game, but
it is, because 1, it's a rivalry, and 2, it's
but they're not
what they were last year, but they're
anything.
still. I still think any given Sunday, it doesn't really matter, because they're not terrible. If they were terrible, then that'd be fine. But
they're pretty low in the preseason poll.
I mean, 6 for ACC, around number 6.
Well,
But like they could still be a 7, maybe 8 win team. I don't think they will, but it's very possible. And if we get to the point, there's been times in the end of the year where these teams get upset because it's a rivalry game. So that's why I think it's a big deal. But if you don't think it's a big deal, then we don't even have to worry about it because that's 10 wins already. But I'm saying if we look at those 3, since it is obviously on the road, if we win one of those, that's 10 wins. So that's the illustrious mark that we haven't reached in forever and the big deal. And that's why I view this season as they can take and follow what all these other sports did and take this big historical leap or whatever, because I think the schedule helps a ton. Like, our schedule was not easy. It was not hard.
It's
not
I agree
hard.
with what you're saying. It's an underwhelming schedule, but that, I mean, in terms of record, that can be a good thing. I think you said that the team is upgraded, and it's all happening at the right time with the playoff expansion. So I think it's kind of the perfect storm for a deep run.
Which, by the way, hypothetically, let's say UNC is an automatic W, I still think,
I'm not saying it's an automatic W.
Let's just say if you think that, if they're not bad, because you keep saying I bring them up, if it's still a possibility we lose to a team that we theoretically are favored against, because that happens all the time.
Yes.
So if we do that, we would still obviously, have to look at one of these games as a point of victory. And I think Tennessee and Clemson obviously are a little bit of a step above Carolina for sure.
Yeah.
In terms of importance for us.
I don't want to put anything in the same arena as the Tennessee game.
Yeah. Well, no, that's fine.
That's by and far the biggest game.
Personally, it is the biggest game. If I had to bet a ton of money on it, I'm not sure if we do win. I'm just not sure. Clemson is also very hard because it's on the road. Carolina, I would say for sure we win. But I'm just putting it out there because it's a rivalry game. It's on the road at the end of the year. But I think for us, at least, odds are that we don't make the college football playoff. Just being realistic, odds are that we don't, in terms of if the percentage is above 50 or not. But I think it's for sure there and in the possibility. And the schedule helps a ton because teams like SMU, Virginia Tech, Louisville, Miami, they're all in the same bubble as us. Clemson and Florida State seem to, at least preseason-wise, be the ACC contenders. And then there's us, like 5 teams down there right below them. But all of them are there too, but they're going to be facing each other and just beating each other up while we kind of, I think, if we win the games we need to win, coast in. And especially if we beat Clemson, that is the biggest thing. Because Tennessee is the hardest matchup. But if we lose to Tennessee, it's not the biggest. It's not like the end of the world.
I don't. It's gonna. If we win it, it helps us a lot. If we lose it, it doesn't really hurt us that much.
Yes. So it's a positive in that sense. But Clemson is the most vital because if we lose that game, it's like, dang it, like that really puts a hindrance on our college football playoff ability. But if we win that game, we're like, oh my gosh, like we're in it. Like we're right there with Florida State. And even if Florida State maybe beats us in the ACC title game, we could get in by losing the ACC title game if Florida State is, let's say, number 3 in the country.
Or their quarterback gets injured.
Yeah, or like again, or something like that. If we lose to the number 3 or 4 team in the country and we drop to a few spots, we could drop to 12 or 11 or 10, and we're still in the playoffs.
I think. The simplest way to put it is just win the ACC, get into the college football
obviously,
playoffs.
That's it. But Florida State's obviously a very good team, and Clemson's hard. But if we hypothetically lose that, we just got to really prey on other teams' downfall. But it's still possible. It's still possible.
Clemson didn't really add a lot in the portal.
No, they didn't. That's what I was going to say. They really didn't add a ton.
And Florida State lost Jordan Travis and Keon Coleman, right?
The roster's still very good, but they did lose those two main guys.
2 big names.
I know. So I've seen a lot of people have us like number 4 in the ACC is a consensus I've seen.
Behind Florida State, Clemson, and who?
And Miami.
Okay. Because
they did get a Cameron Ward, who's a transfer from Washington State, who's very, very good. Probably the best quarterback in the ACC, but that could easily be changed because I think a lot of them are close. But I think with their schedule, like we could easily be 3. So I think if I'm saying, hey, Stone, realistically, what do you think we're going to be? I would say 3 in the ACC, 2 is the ceiling. And if you were to say, are we going to make the college football playoff? I'm just going to put my hands up and say, I don't know. because that's really tough. Because when you get down there, we would be for sure competing with at least 3 other teams, and they might be in the SEC, and they would give them SEC bias because of the teams that they probably would have played against. So our schedule is going to be a help and a hindrance. It's going to be a hindrance if we get really close and we get judged based on our resume, but it's a help if, let's say, we easily get in because the teams around us all ended up beating each other up and losing too many games to where we're like, hey, we got this many wins, so we're in the ACC, boom, let us in. But I know the odds are in our favor at least 100%, but we're close. We're very close, and that's why I think there should be a lot of hype and optimism for this season, and it'll be so much better to watch for sure.
Should be fun. Tune in every week. I know I'm going to be in Charlotte for that Tennessee game. Going to go on. It's a Thursday night game, home opener against Western Carolina. Should be a easy win.
Hopefully. Better be. I don't know what I would do.
I think we would have to maybe cancel the podcast.
Probably if we lost that game.
Oh, that would be bad.
But, I mean, yeah, that's basically the main games. Other ACC stuff is we got home game against Wake Forest, Syracuse, Stanford, Duke. So none of those really expect to do much. Georgia Tech on the road might be kind of interesting, and Cal. Those would be interesting ACC games on the road. But other than that, we already told you the matchups you need to know. But season starts August 29th, Thursday. And then September 7th on Saturday is the Tennessee game. So keep your eyes out for that in the coming week or two. But that'll do it for me. Do you have anything else to add? Football or anything like that?
I think that's all we got.
All right. Is that all we got?
That is all we got.
All right.
So that's our first episode. We will return in 2 weeks. And this has been Let It Red.
See ya.
Music in this podcast was Jonas Hipper's King of Sports and Vibe and Sneaky, licensed under Creative Commons from the Free Music Archive.